Hmm. Shatter my heart so I may love more deeply, said Hafiz. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace, said Hendrix. These are jewels of Venus-Pluto wisdom, knowing through embodied experience of living a full, rich, and deep life. Today, I'm going to share with you my stream of consciousness on Venus-Pluto. When I say Venus-Pluto, I mean any aspect of Venus-Pluto. Whether you're born with Venus and Pluto in major alignment in your chart, whether you're going through a personal transit of Pluto-Venus, or as we all are currently today in a world transit going through Venus-Pluto. When we're born with an aspect in our natal chart, those central themes are carried with us throughout our life, so often defining our experience of existence, this incarnation. Or when we go through a personal transit, that period, whether it be a day or 7 years, shaping, informing, compelling, coloring that time of our life. Or in the world transit, as we all collectively share right now, the universal themes that we're all experiencing. Today, Venus and Pluto are conjunct in Capricorn. They began their conjunction on November 16th and are going to last for 4 months until the equinox around March 20th. And that is because Venus is slowing down to station retrograde right now. What I'm about to share applies to Venus-Pluto in all times, but to ground the invocation of this particular moment, Venus and Pluto are conjunct in the late degrees of Capricorn. Venus stations retrograde on December 19th and goes through January 29th for 40 days. She stations at 27 Capricorn and goes all the way back to 11 degrees. That means that typically when Venus and Pluto come into a conjunction in the sky for all of us to share in their experience, that usually lasts about a week or two. But right now, we're going through 4 whole months of this alignment. And we're really at the very beginning of this process. Venus right now is an evening star. Please go out and take a look at her if you can right after sunset. She is the brightest that she can be. Right before she stations retrograde, as she will on December 19th, she is the brightest star she can possibly be. It's magnificent to see. So I encourage you to go out and look at her before she becomes a morning star. When we go through a universal world transit, every human being on the earth is sharing in a collective experience of these two archetypal energies coming together. This is really important for us to understand in the nature of psyche, in the nature of reality, of the Anundi of the soul world. The house placement that Venus and Pluto make for you is the area of life where they become more pronounced, where the stage is set for them to come through more fully in their expression through the events and people in your life. However, irrespective of what house they're in for you, or even what planets they're aspecting for you, we all share in the themes that I'm about to share. Venus-Pluto has a lot to do with the love of power. It has a lot to do with the transformation of our love and our relationships. And as we know, transformation is an inherently messy and confusing process. It's a zigzag, it's 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, right? There's nothing clean and clear about the transformative process. We get moments of clarity, which are oh so welcome moments of mercy. However, the majority of the transit in Pluto's nature is to be in the underworld, which means to be in the unconscious. And when we're in the unconscious, we often don't have words or clear thoughts to name exactly what it is that we're feeling or what it is that we're going through. And so it's being in this soup, this pretty intense soup that we feel profoundly in our heart, that we feel profoundly in all of our social relations, our friendships, our romantic relationships with our family. So, Pluto's desire to transform and evolve through the death and rebirth process to deepen and intensify whatever it touches. In this case, it's all matters of the heart, all matters of Venus. Love, beauty, creativity, the artist, social relations, romantic desire, what we love, what we're attracted to, what we find beautiful, what we're drawn to like a magnet. So, Venus Pluto alignments have a lot to do with the deepening and intensification into our sexuality. It's the combination of Eros and our life force or libido coming together. Venus Pluto is a profound time to take a deep dive journey into one's own sexuality. When we enter into the world of sexuality, we're entering into a place of power. We're entering into a place of life force. But we're also entering into a place where oftentimes there are experiences of the taboo, of the hidden, of the repressed. There's also experiences of having to go into some of our shame. All of these themes relate to Pluto: the taboo, the forbidden, the hidden, our shame, that which is repressed sexually, romantically, erotically with our lover or lovers. Or even if we aren't currently having sex with anybody, our own sexual desires, our own carnal animal desires, they get deepened, they get intensified. So if you are in a situation in your life right now where sexuality is a pronounced theme for you, either because you're having sex or you're not having sex, because you're having wonderful intimate sex or because you're having not so great chemistry or sexuality or connection. Maybe you're in a committed relationship, but there's infidelity. Maybe you're in an open relationship, but there's still secrets or hiddenness. Venus Pluto time periods where we come more fully into the secrets we've been keeping from ourselves and the secrets that we've been keeping from others in our sexual life, in our romantic, erotic life, where there is an exchange of energy between two or more people. So, whether that is sexual intimacy or emotional intimacy, Venus Pluto time periods have a way of creating a certain level of pressure in its intensification. And in that pressure, there often is a volcanic eruption of things that have been kept hidden or kept repressed or kept back or kept in the unconscious. And they just naturally propel out and sometimes explode into our lives uncontrollably in a big hot mess. But that same energy of Pluto does that with our sexuality. It also does that with our creativity, with our desire to create, with our desire to be in relationship with the muse, with our desire to be in relationship with the creative life force that is generative. Venus has everything to do with not only creativity and artistic expression and the desire to make something beautiful and of value or of importance, but it also has to do with finding deep places of reciprocity and mutuality in the exchange of eros between ourself and that which we are in relationship with, whether that is the muse, the cosmos, nature, a lover, a friend. There's a need to go into a deep exploration of all our relations, including our creativity. And so it's a very powerful time for us as artists, as creators, to follow that compulsion, the deep calling that is both pushing like a force of nature from behind you and also calling you toward it. If you're stuck in your artistic expression, then there's an immense amount of pressure that gets created around that until it erupts. If you're stuck in your sexuality, there's an immense amount of pressure until it erupts. Venus also has to do with currency. So it's eros, erotic currency, social currency, but also, of course, it relates to money and all forms of trade. So Venus Pluto time periods are time periods where there's a transformation of our relationship to money, right? Just as there's a transformation to our relationship to our values, there's a transformation to our relationship to money. Now, in that experience, Pluto, as it deepens and intensifies, also brings in the element of drama, right? Pluto is dramatic. It's titanic, it's massive, it's a force of nature that's larger than life, right? It's elemental and primordial. So, Venus Pluto time periods are time periods where all of us tend to be in some way confronted with our relationship to money. Whether you have a lot of it or a little of it, or you used to have a lot, or whatever it is. Because money for all of us is a deeply emotional and psychic experience. I have yet to meet a person on this planet where money is just money for them. We all have a legacy of our relationship to money that we inherited from our family, that we inherited the experiences in our life. So, money always represents a deeply emotional and psychic process. And Venus Pluto time periods, like the one that we're in, is about being confronted in some way with our relationship to money. Sometimes what can happen in the events of our lives is there can be drama around money or drama around inheritance. Let's say someone recently passed in your life and there's a family inheritance. There can be drama around that, right? The potential for power struggle, the potential for coercion and manipulation, domination and control. But there also can be the potential for the transformation and the empowerment through money, through the redistribution of wealth and resources. Venus Pluto in that second, eighth house relationship has a lot to do with our relationship to resources, our own resources, and then the resources of other people. When Pluto dramatizes whatever it touches, in this case, Venus, it can dramatize the relationship to money as much as it can dramatize everything that's happening for us socially. So our friendships take on a deeper intensity, a deeper gravity to them. That means that the places where we feel hurt, or we feel confused, or maybe we feel anxious in relationship, those places where Venus relates to being valued, which just means feeling important, feeling cared for, feeling seen. The places in all our relations get heightenedly attuned during this time to say, ouch, I actually don't like that. That doesn't feel good. Or wow, that feels powerful and amazing. And I want to turn up the volume because that feels good. I want to invest more energy there. I want to put more of my Venusian heart and love into this person or these group of people. And you know what? I actually want to take back some of my heart from this person or these group of people. And so we're really asked and challenged to make both of those value decisions because Venus ultimately in her social relations is about underneath of that the erotic currency that we're sharing back and forth in the give and take that makes up relationship. And so this time period centers us into that. And sometimes that experience is deeply internal and emotional, right? But then sometimes that experience is very explosive and dramatic, right? because Venus Pluto is a time period where we tend to uncover or discover secrets in relationship. Sometimes it's a period of betrayal. It's a time period where we are either present to past betrayals or current betrayals. It can be a time period where perhaps we even betray somebody, right? So with Pluto, it always is a question of power. And with Venus, it's always a question of that erotic currency that makes up all our relations. And when the two come together, the central themes that pervade all of our lives, no matter who we are themes around love and power. We all are so familiar with how Venus Pluto can relate to that myth of Persephone and Hades' abduction or that theft into the underworld. So Venus Pluto is a deeply initiatory time period, an initiation through the heart, through our resources, through our creativity, and through our relationships, where we are often challenged along the way to step into our truth and into our power in all themes of Venus. When we choose to meet life there and rise to that occasion with courage, strength, and love, there's a life force energy that comes in from behind and lifts us up and propels us forward. And that's where the magic of true change through transformation of the death and rebirth process that takes place. When for whatever reason we can't do that, Pluto tends to show up more in its repressive function, where oftentimes there's a kind of cementing of shame that takes place and also a potential closing of the heart. So Pluto can as much create the barriers, like thinking about the barriers around a castle. If at the center of the castle is Venus, feminine, love, kindness, relationality, relational attunement, then the fortress sometimes can be Pluto. So if in the center the heart is feeling not safe, the feminine is not feeling safe, then the fortress can get stronger, right? The barriers, the blocks can get stronger. But so too, equally, Pluto can be the moat that you're able to cross, the bridge that is dropped down, the gates that are open, and you're able and to be in deep relation with the feminine, with the heart, with the lover, with the friend. Um, But that often requires a lot of trust, which requires time, which requires communication. And so, because of the profound astronomical alignment of Mercury also passing through during this conjunction, as Travis and I spoke about in our most recent Trust Psyche podcast, which you can find right here on my YouTube channel, episode 27 about the Venus retrograde, we discussed specifically how Mercury, Hermes, the messenger of the gods, the god of the threshold, is able to go from the above world and the below world. And so there's this profound astronomical alignment of Mercury, Venus, and Pluto all coming together right at the new year. And so this awareness that communication has a lot to do with this passageway and initiation into the heart through all our relations and our creativity and our relationship to our values and our relationship to beauty, our relationship to love, our relationship to partnership in all its forms, personal, professional, romantic. And so there's a requirement here to give voice to the unspoken, to give voice to the hidden, to give voice to the repressed, to give voice to the shame in order to come back to that place of loving connection. That ultimately Venus Pluto is glorious for deep, soul impassioned love. It is the love of the soul level connection filled with so much erotic, orgasmic passion, the impassioned lovers, the orgasmic lovers, whether that's between two human beings or between the artist and the muse or between the astrologer and the divine, whatever it may be, there's something available to us right now very, very orgasmic, life giving, generative. But it first requires in all of us, in me and in you, to descend into the underworld of the places inside of us that, for whatever reason, which we all have, are locked away, are needing loving attention, are temporarily in a place of feeling stuck or imprisoned. That is the requirement of Pluto. It, it is the way through. As far as I have seen, there's no other way around it. Not in any real, substantive, sustainable way that I have yet to see. And so when Pluto comes to Venus, it presents us that to that which can be most tender in all of our lives, matters of the heart. Who we love, how we love, where we love, and the places that we have kept our love hidden, whether that's because of our parents or society or our own whatever history, right? We all have a story, we all have a reason for why this happens. And in a way, it almost doesn't even matter because it's a universal experience that we all share. Every planetary combination lets us into a shared universal human experience. And Venus Pluto can have so much to do with jealousy and envy. So if you're born with Venus Pluto, there's a tendency to experience, as I think in a way, an emotional, psychological, and spiritual path, themes of jealousy and envy. Now, jealousy and envy are a part of the human experience. So we see every human experience, the universality of being human in every combination. However, when you're born with a certain alignment, those themes are more central to your soul's path of evolution. Or when you're going through that transit, that time period is more specifically focused on that. And this is where I actually like to think of some practitioners of Mormonism, right? Where they believe that jealousy is a spiritual path to become closer to God. And if I read that symbolically, I think that that is actually a big theme for Venus Pluto folks. Jealousy and envy, as tormenting and horrific and awful and all consuming that it can be, can also then become a spiritual healing path to become closer to the divine. Venus Pluto has so much to do with the love of darkness, the love of the taboo, the love of the forbidden, right? The love of that which is monstrous, the love of the inner demon, the inner monster, the love of the outer monster. Can you fall in love or be attracted to that which is ugly, that which is not supposed to be beautiful or valued by everyday society? Venus Pluto is about finding that taboo love, whether it's for a moment or a lifetime, and leaning into that. Can you take the person that you hate and despise the most and find any love in there? Whether that's a personal relationship or a public figure, right? Venus Pluto loves to find that. But I also think it would be remiss not really underline um, how difficult and painful this process truly is when we ride the Venus Pluto dragon of the heart through the underworld. Um, for me, I have been very present over the last several weeks to the relationships in my life where um, I feel there has been a misuse or abuse of power, right? So there's been a lot of emotional presencing within my heart to the relationships in my life that have both been the most significant, the most powerful, but also feeling in there where it felt like there was a misuse of that power. I'm also noticing around sexuality that there's this place in me that I continue to remember and be brought back to again and again, which is no matter how close Travis and I become in our intimacy, emotional intimacy and sexual intimacy, there is always more vulnerability to uncover. And I think that that's the beautiful side of life. And the beautiful side of Pluto is that it's an endless, infinite, bottomless place of uncovering. However, it also can be very emotionally wrought and sometimes awful to experience because part of Venus Pluto in its nature is secrecy. There's just no way around that. And part of what hurts about secrecy is being left out, right? Oftentimes, what's most painful about an affair or infidelity, whether emotional or sexual or both, is has oftentimes less to do with the sexual act itself and more to do with the secrecy, the not being included, the not being a part. And part of what makes it so difficult for couples to work through and heal that is that it requires a profound holding of paradox to actually honor both people's truths within what's going on in relation to the same story. Part of the difficulty in holding that paradox is that often the things that have hurt us the most in life, and this is part of what Venus Pluto shows us, are also the places where we tend to have the most erotic libidinal charge. That's a very confusing place, I think, for most of us to be with. The both and, without collapsing into either the blaming and shaming of you're wrong, you did me wrong, you betrayed me, I'll never forgive you, or okay, it's all okay and let's move past this and sweep it under the rug, right? Neither of those versions actually show us that they work toward long lasting partnership with true connection and feeling emotionally seen and met by the other person. And so there's a profound requirement of holding that paradox of both and there, right? Like we say, we can forgive, but we don't forget. We must be held accountable, and yet, righteous anger at the end of the day is a way that ultimately we give power away. Which is very hard because there's such feeling of vindication and truth in our righteousness, in our righteous anger. And it doesn't mean that that person didn't hurt us or shouldn't be held accountable for their actions. But righteous anger doesn't actually bring us back to connection ultimately when we stay there with ourselves or that other person. And what it turns out is somehow the most obvious thing and yet the hardest thing for us humans, at least in this modern age, to accept, to truly accept, is that we need one another. Right? Like the most obvious thing, we need each other. And yet, you can look anywhere in the world and see that we often don't act that way. Often don't treat each other that way, whether that's from what we see between a partner, within a family, within a community, within a nation. We don't actually act that way. So, Venus Pluto, in her powerful medicine of love and bringing powerful, transformative, loving attention to that which we are aching in our disconnection from, whatever it might be, painfully presents us that as an opportunity to walk through that purifying fire without any guarantee of reconnection with the person with whom perhaps we are seeking it. So it's a huge risk. I'm gonna And here, in a moment, I just want to add one last thing about Venus Pluto and thank all of you who are here with me live right now. I think it's really important that when we go through world transits, whatever the world transit may be, in this case, it's Venus Pluto conjunct in Capricorn, that we remember that every single person on this planet and in our life is experiencing this complex in one form of or another. There's something both deeply unifying in that truth and also requires us to paradoxically hold that we're all in different places within the continuum of that possible expression of this energy. For me, the Venus Pluto is happening in my 11th house. So, all the things I just talked about apply to me. And probably one of the most central areas I'm going to be seeing it coming through as far as the events and the characters in my life is community. And that's exactly what's presenting itself. People that I haven't been in community with, some for 15 years, have come back into my life. And I have an opportunity to spend New Year's with folks that I used to be in deep connection with. And there was a profound severing. And now there's this opportunity for reconnection. Venus retrograde in specific has to do with reconnection. So I watch and I say, okay, Psyche, what are you asking here? What's the opportunity here for my heart to heal? And then these relations show up totally seemingly out of the blue, right? And I use my astrological awareness to say, I tune in and I feel into the story that's there. I feel into how my heart feels about people in this event. And I say, wow, you know what? I'm born with Sun in the 11th. It's central to my identity and my sense of self and creative self expression to be in community and groups of people. And I haven't gotten to have that, as so many of us haven't during the pandemic, but also at that time, Saturn was in my 11th house, and there can be an ending or a closing to community. Saturn's out of there, but now Pluto and Venus are there. And it says, okay, you want to come back in? It's the Venus Pluto path to reconnect back in. It's also square my moon, so I know it also has a lot to do with my family, right? But irrespective of what house it's in for you or what other planets in your chart it's touching, we all experience the themes, the archetypal themes that I covered. Of course, just the beginning of the covering of those Venus Pluto archetypal themes. And so for me, I presence myself to what Psyche is presenting. I go inside, I ask myself how I feel about it, where am I at in the story, where would I like it to go? And then I align myself with knowing what Venus Pluto asks of us in its challenges, in its shadow side, right? As doorways to that transformative path of coming back to what my intention here is a loving open heart where I get connections that deeply nourish me on a soul level, right? That's my intention here. So what do I need to do to take responsibility to saying yes to that and to doing my part and helping facilitate that medicine, that alchemy of Venus Pluto that is here present as a currency of medicine and opportunity between all humans right now over the holidays. I am so excited that Trust Psyche is offering archetypal astrology readings through Travis DiRuzza. You can schedule one anytime and go to travisdiruzza.com under astrology. He does readings for individuals, couples, newborns, solar return, end of the year, all of it, and he's phenomenal. And I'm so, so excited that we're offering our next astrology course, the Astronomy and Cultural History of Astrology. It's a 10-week online course that you can take live with us or recorded. It starts February 6th, runs for 10 weeks on Sundays until April 10th. Travis is going to be teaching that, and I am so impressed by what he has created for us. And we get to be in there together under the latter part of this Venus Pluto, which I'm also excited about. So you can go to trustpsyche.com/astrology courses to get more information and to register today for the early bird discount. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, follow us on Instagram, trust.psyche. Thank you so much for being here with me. I'm sending all my deep, abiding love to you as you ride the cosmic dragon through the underworld to get back into the place of the heart, if that so is your choice, whether to the muse, to the lover, to whatever it may be that's coming up for you right now during this time. All right, everybody, I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for being here with me. I'm Jessica DiRuzza. I'm going to end with my Jaguar rattle that Contessa Magdalena created for me in a visionary process. It's a very Venus Pluto creation. Every part of this rattle has profound, significant meaning. And I'm also going to be rattling with my daughter's rattle, Luz Sophia. Tessa also made this rattle. Look at that beautiful rainbow peyote stitched handle on California driftwood and a Peruvian gourd of the sun and the moon. Quartz inside and stones have personal significance to us that she prayed over and went into visionary space to create. If you're interested in checking out Tessa's work, you can go to celestialtapestry.com, check out her rattles, make one for yourself. She's phenomenal. All right, everybody, thank you so much. Here we go. Closing out, sending love.